could actually pass for him. All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome. This is the regular Wednesday live stream that we're doing. Our co-host here is Brian White from Future Oz, and we got Nick Gibbs from Investing Against the Grain. Every one of us have our own YouTube channels, and you can watch the live stream in any of these channels. Today, we're going to talk about two very big rumors. They're just rumors, but there's lots of small evidence that can back them up. But they're very important if some of them are true. And I think most people are actually leaning towards some parts of these are true. The first one is a cybercab was spotted with a steering wheel. Now, when you see the photo, you can decide for yourself. It could just be a shadow. What could that mean? Why are they doing that? And the second one is rumors from China, supply chain partners there are starting to say that they're receiving orders for Tesla Bot. And the Tesla Bot could actually, they're shooting for 600 units per week by the end of this year. These are big deals if they're true. Welcome, everybody. So thank you so much, Nick. And Brian, what do you guys think? Brian, why don't you start us off? Do you think these rumors are just rumors?
I don't. I think there's a very strong case that can be made. So you can look at the photo and decide for yourself what you think it is. But let's say for a moment that it is just a shadow. Does that mean there's definitely not a wheel in there for some kind of testing and calibration? Does not mean that. So if you look at something like a Zoox, it does not have a wheel of any kind in there. But how do they move it when they need to do fine adjustments or get it in the display area in just such a way for a presentation? There has to be some kind of manual controls, even if they're not physically linked. It could be very possible that they have just a little glue-on kind of controller that is basically a Wiimote kind of system. I would say this photo is not conclusive, but that doesn't mean that there isn't one that would have it. What do you think, Nick? You're muted.
Why?
Yeah. Now we hear you.
Am I? Oh, no, okay. I think we love to overanalyze things and dive a little too deep into some of these things. My take is that, one, we don't know what we see. And two, much like we just said, Brian, there probably is a way for them on some of these prototypes to have a steering wheel so that they can make fine little adjustments, so they can get it in and out of a semi truck, so that they can just be able to do all these like little idiosyncrasy things that aren't robotaxi related, right? Like the final vehicle production won't have a steering wheel. I don't buy all this next gen vehicle. This is the signal we needed. I don't buy any of that. This is just very common sense stuff. Like I don't think it's crazy. It's I don't know. It's pretty. It's like on a ship. On a ship, you have emergency steering for a vessel, but that's not the actual steering you use. You don't actually steer a ship from the engine room. You only have that because it's one of those things you have for certain situations, whether it's testing during a maneuver or little idiosyncratic reasons. But I don't know. I think we are diving way too deep into this one as a community. I love it. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's good content to discuss. But if I'm being realistic here, my opinion, this is just purely a test vehicle.
Yes. Yes. And I would add to that, there is no physical mechanisms from the cabin to any of the control systems. But the example you made, Nick, with the engine room of a ship having emergency controls, yeah, that's a very good analogy. And getting it into a semi, great. You can use Summon to do a lot of things, but I'd really feel more comfortable having a system that's familiar to humans, even if it is just a video game steering wheel controller.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, is there a steering wheel or not? Right? It's too inconclusive at this point. It could be a shadow. This is a photo. We don't know. But there's rumors. I mean, it's very possible, like you said. So there's a couple of reasons why it could be. There's three reasons. Some people are actually out there doing videos saying that this is the low-cost vehicle. They're going to put the steering wheel. It does not make sense for Tesla to create any new cars anymore at this point. It's all in robotaxis. You would take this, you put a steering wheel, sell that as a low-cost vehicle. This is what's coming out in May. And by the way, they say this is why we've not seen spy shots of the new vehicle. By now, we should have seen spy shots of the new vehicle. That's their reasoning. I don't think so. I agree with what you're saying there. There's a couple reasons why I think that I actually do think that this is a steering wheel. I think that's my opinion. I think this is real. But why? They would need a steering wheel for what you said, right? Just to maneuver things around, just to get it, to test, test everything that's working on right now, to see it's, do sharp turns, test everything really well. The second reason, though, I think is that my understanding is that whenever a autonomous company is launching a new commercial robotaxi program in cities, including China, the typical rule is that the very first time you do this, you need to have safety driver in the car. A safety driver, and very likely needing to have a steering wheel. And then after you've proven certain milestones, you can pull the safety driver out and prove that a remote driver can safely carry out these, this robotaxi test pilots. And then over a certain time, then you can start reducing the number of times that the safety remote driver can oversee these cars. But these are just normal stepping stones. And I think that this could be the reason why they have that. It makes zero sense for me still that this is the low cost vehicle. Brian did a fantastic, you go to his channel, check out his videos. He did a great deep dive on the Cybercab. He interviewed several engineers who specifically were responsible for building the Cybercab. And the list is way too long for you to say you can just add a steering wheel and pedal and it's good to go. This is specifically designed for robotaxi, specifically designed for autonomous driving. Like, for example, just a simple one, you can't just put a steering wheel. You need to put rear windows so you can go in the back. You need to have a mirror. You need the side mirrors. There's probably a long list of things you would need to bring back in if this is going to be sold. So those are my reasons. But yeah, there's people out there. Nick, I know you're saying that we're overreacting, but there are more people that think that this is a low-cost vehicle than not.
Yeah, just a couple points. Like, if I was to play devil advocates on the window part, well, technically the Cybertruck, you can't see behind it if the tunnel cover is closed, right? So they could have the same type of implementation as the Cybertruck has. That's just devil's advocate. But can you pull the picture up again? Like, to me, when people are talking about like, oh, look, a steering wheel, whether it is or not, like, one, it's such a fuzzy picture and all you see is a silhouette. This makes me, this is like when people say, oh, there's the Loch Ness monster, right? Like, that's literally what it's like. But if you look on the left, look at the passenger side, you can almost see a similar arc, a semi arc that's happening there, that it almost looks like it's very similar to what you see on the other side. Again, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying, like, we're probably reading way too much into this. And if, look, people are gonna do what they're gonna do. I think this is where people get in trouble, is when they get, I don't know, they put the cart before the horse, and everybody always wants an answer. Like, that's I would say the problem with a lot of the world is, I need to have an answer. If I don't know the answer, I need to make one up. And it's like, no, sometimes you don't know the answer because you don't know yet. And that's okay. And we can live in the unknowing. And right now, nobody knows what's next for Tesla with these next vehicles, other than what they've told us in the earnings calls, that they're working on them, that they're going to be released in the first half. And when we've been told that, no, the Cybercab is its own thing, that the Cybercab is going to be built on the Cybercab line with the unbox method. The new vehicles will use elements of the unbox method. Ergo, it's not the same vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
They've told us enough without telling us everything.
Those are all, I would say, perfect points. I'm one of the people who, when I see a trailer for a movie, as soon as I've decided I want to see the movie, I shut off the trailer. I'll wait. I'm happy to wait and get the real thing. There is an important
good parts.
Yeah, the more exciting thing to me in that picture, if you could pull it back up, Herbert, is the width comparison with the Model S behind it. That is a narrow car. All the concerns, the doors will swing too wide. Look, if you opened one of those doors, it would only be as wide as the car behind it is with the doors closed. So that was, to me, the more exciting part of the picture, because
That's a great observation.
Yeah, that is a whole lot narrower.
A lot more. a lot.
Yeah.
Look at the back of the S there. You can see even that fans out more. That's such a great observation, Brian.
It's got big hips, is what it's got. And then an interesting point you made, Herbert, that we haven't seen the spy shots. Once the Cybercab day was done, I expected to see there's a very large parking garage at Giga Texas, and the entire ground floor has been painstakingly blocked off from view. They put up security fences around it that will not fall. And that is, I believed, to hide the cybercabs within. I don't think the cybercabs were there. I think they were all in Southern California at the design studio. So I think what they're hiding is the intermediate vehicle that's built on the 3 and Y line. And it would make sense. The employees have been exceptional in keeping this under wraps. And I think it's, yeah, it'll happen soon. And I'm with Nick. I can wait and see how exciting it's going to be.
Okay. Some people are saying this. Can we take a look at this? Is this true? Currently in the US, it's illegal to put a car with no controls in it.
Well, Zoox has no controls.
Yeah, it's driving around. You have to get approval, but that's already coming out. Yeah, it's not true.
Now, I had read that Zoox does not have approval because they feel that they don't need approval because there's some reason they feel they don't need it, but why not? And it is down to, if it's an autonomous vehicle, I don't know, it's just down to NHTSA rules, and those can be changed with the swipe of a pen. Those do not require acts of Congress. Those can be just written. Those rules can just be written.
Yeah. And this is where a federal framework for autonomy could come in and explain all this and define exactly what is allowed, what isn't allowed. In China, they just designated Shanghai as the level 3 company, the city that can do level 3. They've announced at least 20 cities in China that allows testing of autopilot, of testing of this. By the way, people don't understand this and realize this, but it is legal for you to test a autonomous driving platform in every single state today. And the 10 states that have actually got more fully described laws or rules around it, they did that just to clarify a little bit more specifically, and they allowed it. So it's actually not illegal to try out a autonomous driving today. Now, there might be things like NHTSA might say you need to have, these like a steering wheel and so forth, certain numbers, but you have to get approval for that for sure. Okay. So that is this rumor about the potential cybercab with a steering wheel. I think we all kind of agree at this point. I still think it's real, but it doesn't matter if it is or isn't. It's very, just a shadow. We don't know yet for sure. But, I don't think it's a cybercab. It's going to be the low-cost vehicle at all until I hear more information. But this one here is another rumor about the Tesla bot. And at first, it looks and sounds like it is a rumor, and it certainly is a rumor. We've not heard any news from Tesla themselves, but there is some credence to it because you're hearing supply chain people kind of sharing in more information. So this guy from China is just saying that from watching the social media in China, so again, who knows? It's more likely not true. He's saying that Tesla has given suppliers guidance on Optimus production, 600 units per week by the end of 2025. And so this obviously created a little stir. If you can do 600 per week, that would be 30,000 per year run rate by the end of this year. That's the run rate by the end of this year. That's the incredible part. It is in line with what Elon is saying, that by sometime next year, he's expecting 50,000 or even up to 100,000. Well, you'll need to start somewhere. And so what's happened is that, another person is basically saying that this rumors is spreading that these industry chain research, I don't know where he came up with that number, but let's just jump here. But basically, this is the breakdown of what he's hearing from the supply chain. They actually list out the actual supply chain partners. So for the joint actuators, Tesla will be producing that in-house, but they're going to partner with Sanhua, Topu, and then new suppliers, Zhenyu, strong in-screw automation lines, motor matching sample submitted. You can see here that they actually list out harmonic drive systems, so very specific. Again, this could all be bull. It could all be crap, but this is what they're hearing from the suppliers themselves. And you can see that as we break down, there's a list here. And then this is, again, very weak but the stock for harmonic drive jumped, 32% just the last few days. Somebody's maybe knowing something. So Brian and I did a show on this, and we talked about this. Brian, why don't you summarize what you thought about this?
My thinking is that this all kind of fits in terms of the run rate by the end of the year. What I'd said, and this video will probably come out tomorrow. I'm not sure when Herbert's releasing it, but let's get real pessimistic and say, nope, just like Cybertruck, they're way off on their estimates. It's going to be a third of that. 200 bots a week would still be a flood compared to everyone else on the market. Tesla's hardware is already good enough. It is good enough. We've seen it on display, and it's already better than that. That was only the second most recent generation as of October 10th. They've got something better and probably better than that still. And then the question is the software. Does it have the software to do it? Well, it depends what you need it to do. It's got the software to do a number of things and the hardware to do infinite things once you update it. So and of course not infinite, but you know what I mean, virtually anything. So why not release it? This is absolutely a minimum viable product. The market will pay a premium to get early access to these for testing in a variety of factories and different applications around the country. And it all makes sense. The pieces are falling into place. And if you get a rumor from one supplier, take it with a grain of salt. If you hear it from 5 or 10 suppliers independently, it's starting to have a little bit more credence. So it all makes sense to me and it all fits.
Don't you think, though, that especially because it's the bot, Tesla would lock this down? They would put so much, NDAs and, very, very careful, only a select few. So that's one part of the argument, right? They've done a fantastic job up to now, really, clamping down to make sure that secrets are secrets. Tesla's done a much better job. I don't know. I think Apple does a great job there as well. But the other side of it is that there's so many suppliers and they have just tremendous amount of, they need to arrange. We're heading into the high scale production. They need to make this work. There's going to be more and more people involved, especially when you say to a company, I need you to have this many parts by this date. It doesn't matter if you're not told. You're going to see the orders put in. Your own company, your own supply chain will see these massive orders put in. So.
I will disagree on the Apple point. I'm not aware of the last time Apple released a new product that wasn't deeply anticipated. The phone, the tablet, the AirPods, the VR, it was well understood before the big day. The details didn't get out, and we don't have the details. We have one supplier's. I think it's only one supplier that gave us a number, and that could be wrong, which we already kind of covered. It could be much short of that and still be very exciting. And if you were to ask anybody who works at any of this, the reason we're not hearing about the next iPhone is because we know the suppliers would say, yeah, they're always working on something new. It's going to have new stuff. You go, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Nick, where do you stand on this? Going to be a rumor, we're overreacting, guy.
Well, I would just say, I would imagine that if we're hearing rumors about Optimus, why haven't we heard rumors about the next gen vehicle and supplies for that? It seems a little weird that we would hear rumors about this so far in advance for the end of the year, but we haven't seen anything for the next gen vehicle.
Well, there's a simple answer to that.
Okay, what's the simple answer?
The simple answer is that the next gen vehicle, it's not the next gen vehicle, the new, more affordable vehicles, as you already said earlier, is built on the same production lines as Model 3, Model Y. You won't know. They will look like parts for the existing products that they're building today. This one is brand new products, never been ordered before.
Or maybe they're potentially products for the next gen vehicle, and we're guessing that they're for Optimus.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the new car is full of actuators, but I think this is what This is the same thing that with the Apple comparison, the next gen car, like, or again, not the next gen, the more affordable car has so many parts in common with the 3 and Y. When the 3 was coming, I was able to see it coming well in advance because the parts were so different. With the Y, I didn't get any words from suppliers because apart from the headlights and taillights, everything looked like Highland materials, really. So it was a lot harder to see coming. I had to use other information to establish timelines, but with a whole new thing, I think it's easier. So
Yeah, I just with all
Mhm.
these rumors and stuff. I mean, someone in the comments talked about the McDonald's car all over again, and it's like every time like, do you remember when it was before the robo
10
taxi
10.
oh
day?
We
yes,
robot event.
yes,
Hmm.
We were
yes,
about that. Thank
yes.
you.
No,
Everyone's like, "Oh
McDonald's
my
came
god, it's the
out.
ugliest
Yeah.
vehicle I've ever seen," and people thought that's what it was. Like, and it's like this most ridiculous. Anyways, my point is, all these things I think tend to be wrong or off, or even if like you look back and you're like, okay, well, there's a kernel of truth. One, you wouldn't have known what to do with that kernel of truth. Whether it's investing, gambling, trade, you wouldn't have known which way to place your bet. You don't even know if that would have made a difference. We don't actually know what it means for the end of the year. To Brian's point, where's the software in relation to the manufacturing lines? The software might still take another 2 years. We might be at the time where we can scale hardware just so that we can figure out the software part of it, because just like the vehicles, we need to get the hardware out there to collect enough data. So all of this really does nothing for you as an investor, right? In the short window or even the long window. The bigger
Yeah.
thing is, do you see this as a 5, 10 year play? And if you do, then you know they're going to build humanoids. When is really irrelevant. You know it's going to happen within the next decade. And so to me, it's just, I don't know, it just seems almost not a waste of time, but it's just not constructive. I think what's more interesting is when you hear, and okay, now I'm going to sound like I'm gassing them up, but when you hear rumors that Brian is bringing forth, that's when I tend to think there's more credence to them, because Brian tends to source with two or three different, you correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, but different uh, non-related, what's the word I'm looking for?
Multiple independent sources.
Independent sources, exactly. And that's when I'm like, okay, but when I see these one-offs, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know who this person is. Are they signal? Are they noise? What's their history? Like, it's hard to know. So I don't know. That's kind of how I look
Hmm.
at it. And I'm
I
not trying to
yeah.
like dampen anyone's
Yeah.
fun or anything. I'm just trying to be pragmatic here, and not. We're in a point right now in the markets in general where everything's frothy, everything's extremely YOLO, and in moments like this, I like to try to at least be someone who kind of brings things a little more to level ground, because I don't know. I just feel like I feel like it needs to be done. So, but that's
Uh,
just me.
so yes, when I report rumors, I will not consider it valid until I've got not only multiple independent sources, but ones who I know, verified, like real sources. That's why I was the last to the Giga Mexico story. All the claims I had seen were unverifiable and single source. And I had a lot of people get very mad. How you're so bad at this? You were the last to report it, right? But I also don't report any of the noise because I'm able to avoid it that way. Do you really want me reporting all the rumors? It's ridiculous. I did a whole show with Jan from Tesla Fix where all we talked about was single source rumors that we hadn't published over the past year. And we had some doozies in there. So yeah, I'm not going to start a new chain of analysis on this based on these numbers or any numbers, because I also do not know who these sources are. They're not my sources. They're at this point internet rumors, but strong ones. And I would disagree that it doesn't matter. I think it does. If we can get even 200 a week out by the end of the year, certainly 600. Your first point was we need the training data. This is where we get it. And with those kinds of numbers, it'd be a volume that is too great for Tesla to fully utilize in-house, meaning they'd be going out to customers to learn additional use cases, additional skills and tasks. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun either way.
Yeah, I think the only difference would be that when Elon, Tesla came out and said, we're going to make 50,000 robots next year, you just go, okay, that's crazy numbers. Crazy. That's not something that any of us had believed that it can be possible. So we put a lot of discounting on that statement. Then if you start to see signs that that's actually even possible, that's where it's interesting. Okay, that's why it says, okay, it's a rumor. We don't know if this is true. We'll wait to see what they say again at the earnings call next week. On the 29th, we will be hosting a live stream here on this channel and Brian's channel as well, and he'll be joining us. We'll be doing it together. We'll hear more. But for him to come out and say 50,000, right? That's not a rumor. That was an actual situation that he said. And but then you can go, yeah, he's just saying numbers again, until you start seeing the pieces lined up. Because if you truly are going to hit 50,000, that's crazy. What do you need to see this year? And that's where I'm kind of evaluating these kind of things. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm still seeing people on social media saying bots will not happen for another 10 years. Yeah. And I disagree with that.
FSD's not happening for another 10 years, Brian.
FSD's not happening in our lifetimes. I've had people say that. It may never happen. So, wow, that reminds me of that famous New York Times headline that I share with Herbert all the time.
Airplane.
Powered flight will not exist for another 1,000,000 to 10 million years of continuous effort. Month later. Oh, my bad.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's go back to another story here, which is Piper Sandler. They've changed their target to $500 from $315. And this is a big jump. $315 to $500. This isn't just a tiny jump, right? This is pretty big. Overweight rating. And again, you're starting to see more and more institutional analysts talk about Tesla as a real world AI company. Wow. Here we go. We finally got that, got them out of their, words out of their mouths. And they're pricing in the autonomy, toward popularizing full self-driving software. So they're modeling in a contribution from FSD licensing. So that's interesting. It values Tesla's existing business just below $300. And then the rest is these more ambiguous opportunities. And then they even talk about the bots. Okay. Now, I don't think they've added it yet, but this is something that, it's clear, however, that Tesla's thesis will ultimately depend on new age opportunities like Optimus robots and neural net training as a service. So 2025 first half may be choppy. The stock remains its top buy and hold idea. Want to talk about that?
I don't know where they get their price targets. I did have a chance to read through this one this morning, and I agree with their conclusions. Some analysts are more, you've got raging bulls like Dan Ives. I appreciate a lot of the things he says. It's very difficult for them to price in some of those more ambiguous goals. But I don't need to know what the actual price is. I know line go up, and that's all that matters to me.
Well, so yeah, for me, it's like you have to price it in. Okay, so if you're an analyst that's not pricing in, and I have had a big debate with Gary Black about this just the last week, he refuses to put anything that does not have a product. I've had him on the show, guys. So if you guys are saying, hey, talk to him. Yeah, we had him on the show. He's pretty convinced that in his way, he will not price anything that's not a product yet. But he will price in the new affordable models. But let's stop a second here. Have you ever seen the affordable models yet? No. Have we seen the bot? Have we seen FSD? Yes. Have you actually had an event that the company has launched or featured it and said it? No. But have you done that for Robotaxi and the bot? Yes, it's called the We Robot event. You actually physically saw it. They actually told you what they're doing. All you've got for all of these is prices, but you also have actual, products now. So, okay, I'll give them that this is a car, more likely that they will actually produce this. He's counting that the executives will do this, but to not price in any probability at all, even just a little tiny bit for Robotaxi in the case that it happens, or for bots, I think that's as irresponsible as saying, oh my God, we're going through the moon and this thing is going to be a $10 trillion stock. You've got to at least price in a little bit. So any institutional analysts who start to do this, at least they're doing it, right? There's a whole bunch of them now. So he's the only one that's not doing this yet. And I had Dan Ives on with Gary Black, and Dan was trying to ask him, well, how do you do your thing? And why are we so different? Dan looks at it from a sum of the parts problem thing, and he looks at the robotaxi business, and he gives it some of his analysis of how much it will be true. And then he keeps raising it as his confidence level on that goes up. Now he's just recently raised his price target to 550. So more and more, we're hearing institutional analysts do this, right? As the days go on, as they see progress with the versions, as they see little things, they'll go back and go, I'm raising my price target. But there's some analysts who will say, I'm not going to give it any value at all until it's an actual product being sold with the price point, and then we can model everything out. I think that's not a right way to do this.
I agree with you completely. I think when you take that approach, you're going to miss boat after boat. I asked Matt Smith 2 years ago, why is no one on Wall Street including Megapack revenue, and
Energy.
when will they? And and he said, once it hits the P&L in a meaningful way, they will start modeling it. Oh, great. Well, 2 quarters later, there it is. Wall Street announced we've initiated coverage for that. So, guys, you missed the boat again. Look at some of these genius hedge fund managers and other investors and look at their returns. They're not great. My returns are great, and I'm, not a seasoned investor. I just knew that when I looked at Tesla in 2019 on the strength of just Giga Shanghai and just Fremont, I had the belief that Tesla would outperform the market over a 10-year horizon. And the Cybertruck hadn't been unveiled yet. I was just saying just Model 3, maybe Model Y, Fremont and Shanghai, this is going to do real well. And there were analysts saying, oh, this is the valuation. These are crazy at, at $14 in split adjusted value. I would never pay that for this company. Right. Well, I wish I could get more shares at that price.
I think when you see, I don't think it's a secret for anyone that's out there. You've heard me, whether it's with Herbert and Brian or Randy or Farzad and Hans. I think analysts are a
Yes.
worthless job title. I think they're there just for clickbait. I think they're there just for noise. It's really pointless to, and you can tell it's all BS when you have a clean $500, $515, whatever price target. That's how you know it's BS, because that's not real. They're not using math to do any of that. Otherwise, you'd look like 503.96 cents, right? If you're actually doing math. At least that's how all my spreadsheets look like. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But I like what Brian said earlier. I don't really know. What I know is I think moving to the future, up and to the right. And the question is, do you think up and to the right a lot, a little, medium? Like, in reality, these price targets, that's all they're really for. To actually say 500 or 600 or 700 or 400 or 1,000, it's like, it's irrelevant. Like, just say, I think up a lot, up a medium, up a little, because you don't actually know the price. And what happens when you get to the price? What happens when we get to 500? What happens when we get to 600? Is all of a sudden a sell? Hell no. Like, you're not going to just sell because something happened to get you to that point that's meaningful. So that's the last thing you're going to do is sell. And so all they're doing is constantly playing catch up. It seems counterintuitive to me to ever listen to any of these analysts when, again, you can just go and look at their historic record and most of them suck. And when I say most, I mean like 97% of them are awful. They're no better than a coin flip. So when I see these numbers, when I see people talk about this, it's like everybody has their cliche. With Dan Ives, it's some of the parts, or a green tidal wave, right? With Gary Black, it's constantly the, well, to your point, Herbert, how do I model it? How they don't even tell me how to think about it. They haven't even told me how I should project this out. So how can I do that if management's not telling me? Right? We hear the same rhetoric from all these people, which I guess it's fair because at least their thinking isn't changing. But it just shows the flaw in their thinking. Like I even think Dan Ives has a flaw in the way he thinks about these things because when he's thinking about as some of the parts, like okay, that's fine, but I don't know. I feel like you're missing the forest for the trees when you're just looking at some of the parts. You're not seeing the bigger picture of everything being more of an ecosystem. And I think when you start seeing everything integrated as an ecosystem, the value of that is just that much more, right? It's like the iPhone network. You have the MacBook, sure. You have the iPhone, sure. But when you start seeing how all these different pieces integrate together, there's a lot more value in that, right? And you've seen everyone try to chase that Apple-like ecosystem. So I just think there's so much that's missing there. And the truth is that we don't know what we don't know anything other than what they tell us and what we experience in our own day-to-day lives. And to me, that's how I really generate my value of our trajectory and how close we are. Beyond that, to your point, Herbert, you have to have something in your models. You have to. We know Optimus is real. We know that they're going to make vehicles. We know FSD is real. The only thing we don't know is the time component, the projection of time, which if you're investing for the long term, that part should really be irrelevant. So get rid of the time factor and just what do you project units to be? What do you think they will charge for subscriptions? What do you think they'll charge for the hardware? What do you think the recurring revenue will be? Right. And you can just model all that out and you can skew it, whatever makes sense for you. But I think anything else beyond that, we're just putting numbers out there for what? For media headline to get our names back out there? I don't know. It seems disingenuous.
You make a great point about analysts, right? But, okay, the big but is that this is
trying to cock my crack again.
No, we can get off that. The big but is that this is the big money that invests in companies. You have the sell side analysts, you have the buy side analysts, and they unfortunately inform where the big money is going to invest in, right? Pension funds. Yeah. So yes, there's no to this. Every single company, the vast majority of the dollars that go into buy the stock is from institutions. And Tesla happens to be one of the most largest retail community with investments in it. We used to be well over 50%. Guess what? Today, we are no longer more than 50%. We're still one of the highest compared to any other company out there, but we're under 50%. So the people who are controlling and buying into this is the big money. I'm not saying that retail doesn't have a ability to shape where this goes. In fact, we do, because number one, we generate so much content to actually spread the truth and spread the facts and spread the kind of the knowledge of what's happening. And number three, we're activist retail. We're actually strong as a group and we can vote together and so forth. So I'm saying that that's strong, but that is the case today, Nick. More than 50% of Tesla's shareholders are institutions at this point.
I agree with that. Big money's not listening to Gary Black. Big money's not listening to Dan Ives. I promise you.
Definitely isn't listening to Gary.
I promise you they're not. They're not listening to Ross. They're not listening to any of them.
It's unfortunate. Gary follows and subscribes to a number of people who I feel provide analysis that has led him astray. There was a quarter when he was the most wrong on production and deliveries, and second only to the person who gave him the advice. Or the next worst was the person who gave him the advice, and he was using his week-old, out-of-date information. And you know, I've met Gary a number of times. For the first time, 3 times. He doesn't seem to remember me, but it's crazy. He get garbage in, garbage out. You get bad information, and his fund returns unfortunately reflect that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
You guys want to talk about Elon Musk? What has happened in the last several days here in terms of, well, I mean, the investments in one example would be Sam Altman and the Stargate project. You guys been following that at all?
I saw a very recent tweet, like today, a post on X that said, and I can't find it now. I want to say it's in this group, that Elon said it's fake. Elon replied, "It's fake." So it was here. I'll just post this in the
Yeah. He said
message
they don't
here.
actually have money. He said that SoftBank doesn't actually. Here, let me share this.
I just popped
Let
one
me
in
share
the.
my screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just share my screen here.
So, and I don't know anything about this, but yeah,
Yeah.
I welcome the discussion.
Okay, can you guys? You haven't seen my screen yet, right? Hold on.
Nope.
Okay. So, what happened was, where am I now? Jeez, sorry guys. Thought I was
They don't
here.
actually have the money. Hmm. And SoftBank, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There it is. Okay, sorry guys. I'm getting ready here.
Mm-hmm.
So you got OpenAI announcing that they're created this new program called the Stargate, and the Stargate project is going to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. And we're going to immediately begin deploying $100 billion immediately. So this is an AI thing. It's going to be funded by SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, MGX, and that's who's going to be doing it. And then ARM, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Oracle and OpenAI are the partners. So they came and announced that Elon says they don't actually have the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem.
And at what time did he
that was
say that?
community noted.
No. Oh, yeah. Mm.
Then he said SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. And I have good authority on that. Sam says, first, he says, I genuinely respect your accomplishments and think you're the most inspiring entrepreneur of our time. So he sounded like, okay, he's kind of giving him a thing. And then he comes back and says, wrong, as you surely know. Want to come visit the first site already underway? This is great for the country. I realize what is great for the country isn't always what's optimal for your companies, but in your new role, I hope you'll mostly put America first. So he came fighting back.
Well, what's it going to do? Can someone tell me that?
Yeah, so that's great. You brought that up, Brian. So I was on with Randy last night before Elon and Sam, before anybody came out about this, and Randy was ready to talk about, all excited about it, and I kind of poo-pooed on it to not cuss on here. And I asked him, like, everyone's getting excited about this. Everybody's all, yay, 500 billion, great. And my question was, for what? What's it for? What are we going to do with it? Who's going to use it? What are the projects? We are spending money on infrastructure before we actually know what it's for. This is not the proper way to work. You work backwards from an idea. You don't build out infrastructure before you have the idea. How do you know what you actually need? How do you know how many GPUs you need? How do you know how you're going to scale this? How do you know that it's not better off to wait for the H200s, or if the H100s are sufficient enough? Maybe you don't even need that type of band. Maybe we can use some AMDs instead. Like, how do you do any of this, right? How are you going to carve that out between the different people? It seems to me, and again, OpenAI, what are they even doing? Like, is this just for more LLM iteration? Like, it's just stupid. We're spending money before we have the idea. The way you successfully build something is you have an idea. Then you work backwards from that idea. What's it look like? What are we going to need? How's it going to map out? The problem with what everybody's doing in the AI space, and why all these people are inevitably going to fail, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, is that everybody is just throwing darts across the board and hoping something sticks. Whereas Tesla started with FSD, and they are so focused on that. And then they went into the humanoid, and they're so focused on that. And that's it. It's the singular, it's all this pressure on a fine point. And that's why they're going to be successful. Everyone else, they're trying to find the answer. You hear all these people talk about training LLMs, and we're going to do video now and all these things, and we're going to get to AGI, and AGI is this big, mythical thing that we're going to get to and going to solve, and that's going to be the end all be all. And I'm here to tell you, and everyone can tell me I'm wrong again. And in 2 years from now, I'll be like, hey, remember when I was talking about this? All this is wasted money. If you don't know what you're actually solving for first, you're doing this wrong. You're absolutely doing this wrong. Yeah, bless you.
Very good points. I don't disagree with what you said. Let me share the other side, I guess, just to round out the conversation. I just watched a great TED Talk. It was earlier in May by Mustafa. He's the AI in charge of Microsoft at this point, and he talked about how the future of AI is going to be. And this guy, you know, he knows his stuff. He's just as high. He was the same level as Sam Altman and all those people at the top.
But because he's done what? What's he done?
Oh gosh, his background is fantastic. So no,
Yeah. Tell me what great AI thing he's done. Would love to hear it.
Dude.
Hey,
his name is Mustafa Suleiman. Huh?
You got cracks in your store before you start.
I mean, I guess
I am passionate about this stuff. I don't like throwing good money around.
No, I mean, I guess you can say that about anybody, right? Because you can say, well, that guy's not enough knowledge. But I guess you can also say that there's some people that are probably the leaders.
People who do stuff successfully, who have a proven track
So
record.
he is an AI entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Microsoft AI. He was the co-founder of DeepMind, an AI company acquired by Google. He co-founded Inflection AI. So, I mean, DeepMind co-founder, along with Demis Hassabis, who's, of course, we know is the major DeepMind guy. So he's been doing this for decades. He's the leader in the space. That's pretty good. That's pretty good background. So anyways,
my point was DeepMind, who were the ones who actually were able to figure out how transformers work, but they couldn't even figure out the utility of a transformer.
Yeah.
It took OpenAI to figure that out. That's how great he is.
Yeah. My point is that, okay, these are people who are in the AI field and they're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And he did this great TED Talk and he explained, that he sees AI and, it's so hard to define what it is actually. And he was calling it a new artificial species because where it's going to be in the future. So first of all, you probably cannot argue at this point that AI impacts everything, every discipline, every segment, everything we're doing. And it's showing that it has tremendous value to everything. We're talking medication, medicines and genomics, to physics, to math, to teaching, to everything you can think of, law, everything's being touched by it, being improved by it, being helped by it. And it's very creative, as you know. So they are headed towards AGI, right? So if you believe or don't believe, some people are off in their projections. He's saying that within 3 years, we're going to get to AGI. Even Elon Musk himself believes this as well. I think most of these guys are saying 2 to 3 years. So this is why they're building this massive data center. It's compute. And the more compute. Now, the argument you made is valid, which is it's one thing to build this massive data center, like $100 billion. You don't even need that unless you have data. Where's the data? The only people that could have the data is Tesla with the real world data from the bots, thousands of bots for the cars. But other than that, everybody already has access to the world's data that is existing in written form and video form from YouTube and Twitter and all that data that's out in the web. It's already accessible to everybody today. So what are they going to fill it with? Totally agree with you. So just more compute doesn't mean anything. OpenAI?
Me.
OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, they definitely don't have the data.
Yeah. Right. Because they're not a data company, right? They are, right.
Maybe they do. We don't know what they're crunching.
Yeah. No, so I agree with you. I am a believer. What was that company? The Chinese company just 2 days ago came out and said we have a competitor to O1 and, they basically, much lower cost. So it's a commodity, right? As you've been saying for last year, LLM is a commodity. Totally agree with you there. I'm not at this point. I don't know where, OpenAI, Sam Altman, just 2 weeks ago, I did a show on that where they've pivoted to robots. They're now hired a humanoid robot, person in charge of that. They're hiring people. They want to get into human or robots. Well, it's a little too late. Yeah, of course. And you can't even build them. Where are you going to build them? You have to partner with some company to build them.
But anyone who's partnering is going to lose in anything at this point. If you're partnering, you're going to lose.
Would you
Yeah.
explain that more? I don't understand why that would be.
Because it's going to come down to it's going to come down to the least cost of service, and you're going to have to be competing against Tesla. So if you're partnering with all these different companies and you're layering on your costs, why would I ever choose to go with you? This is assuming you can catch up to Tesla and you can be on equal footing. Why would I pay for the more expensive thing? I'll stop. It
Well,
won't
the
happen.
reason you would is that there's not enough bots for the demand for all these different jobs. And even if Elon is able to create 10 million bots next year per year, there's still room for additional bots that somebody might make that cost more, that has different skills, much less things. There's room for so many bots. Once it's proven to be a market and that they can do actual useful work, regardless of the price, regardless of the basically being I'm saying that there's not going to be a competitive environment for a year, for maybe even a decade, honestly.
I
But maybe not a
so
decade, maybe 5 years, you know.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So with that said, let me explain my point of view. I think Tesla is so far ahead when it comes to Optimus and FSD that I'm now jumping on to Alexandra's point of view. I don't think there's going to be a
What's her point of view?
licensing deal. I don't
What's
think
her
there's
point
going to
of
be a
view?
licensing deal for FSD. I think that's going to be over. And it's literally only going to be Tesla out there, and nobody's even close to catching up. That's over, in my opinion. As soon as they start actually having robotaxi rides, they will be able to offer the lowest cost per mile ride out of anyone, and they will be able to scale, scale, scale. And the way I see Optimus is, I think Optimus will be the first one out into the market in a real way, not
Hmm.
a one trick pony, two trick pony kind of thing. That's
Hmm.
just for show and marketing. I think Tesla will be the first one out there with a real solution, and you won't see anyone catch up for at least 10 years. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds crazy, and people will say that's crazy, that there's all these other companies I see right here, Unitree, people are talking about, are going to talk about um, help
Figure?
me out, figure and all them. It doesn't matter if they can figure out the software alone. Even if they can figure out the software, I think that'll take them a while to figure out. But then it's the manufacturing, and they're gonna have to partner with other people, and they're just not gonna have the cost of goods be low enough to be able to compete against Tesla. And my opinion is, if Tesla has a 5-10 year lead, Herbert, that's 5-10 years where they can build out factory and production and ramp and scale to the point where they will be able to feed the entire market. They'll be able
Yeah.
to build out a factory in China, in Europe, in Australia, in North America, in South America. I see this as being a winner take most market, just as we've seen really the majority of revolutionary things be a winner take most market. Like, you can make the argument for search engines. That's not anything crazy. Yet it's a winner take most. Same with smartphones. Yes, Apple doesn't have the majority, but they have the majority of the profits. Everybody else is scratching for slim pickings. Well, same with ride hailing right now, right? You see this across the board. So I think if if other countries that have the backing of the entire, like, because people are going to talk about China's doing XYZ. China can't even land a rocket yet. They can't even land a rocket yet. But somehow they're going to figure out AI. Somehow they're going to figure out humanoids. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
yeah,
believe it.
I agree with you, by the way. I do agree with you. And the reason I agree with you is that this is not a product, it's a network effect. If it wasn't a network effect, then you can have as many competitors as you want. But it's a network effect, meaning that every additional bot that one company can make is additional skills. It can be learned. And as soon as one bot learns it, all bots have it. And so the more bots you have, the more skills you can learn. The more you can map also the real world data, the more you can put into these large scale.
Exactly.
And then they network each other. Like, you can have all sorts of apps, just like you have in the App Store, more apps that are really specific to your bot system. Now, if Tesla says it's just going to be Tesla bots, they want it. If they say, I'm going to partner with other companies and you can create all kinds of different kind of Tesla bot form factors and you can have our brains in it, they want it. the problem that Apple had was they decided to stay in, closed garden. If they had said we are willing to license our app store and our software to work with other partners of ours, hardware partners, then they would have you wouldn't have this Android competitor out there. But they stuck their guns, and that's fine. That's a winning strategy. The difference with Tesla and Apple is Tesla's Elon says, I'm willing to partner. Now, on that point about partnership, I actually agree with you there too. I've been saying this. I don't know if I think you saw that show, right? I was saying that there's a very high likely chance that Tesla will not partner for FSD anymore. And that's like a shocking statement to make. You just said it. And all Alexandra says was that they'll probably partner with one or two, which I think I agree with because Elon said so. He's been chasing them. But there's why would you partner with an auto company and it takes them 3 years at the minimum to actually produce a brand new car that can now do this? In the meantime, Tesla's going to just produce their cars and build factories and build more cars and build their own versions of their cars. Why? You know what I mean? Like, by the time they create their car, right, just to say they're not a monopoly, which is a valid point. And so they might partner with 2 or 3, but it's not like they need to like partner with the entire industry. They don't need to. But by 3 years from now, you imagine where we're at that point.
There are a lot of Chinese companies that are already running FSD that is reasonably effective. Kyle Connor has got a lot of coverage this week from China. So in terms of things that are smaller than rockets are huge and extremely complicated. I think bots will, don't underestimate China is my take on that. As a reminder, I will be doing a live follow-up show when this one concludes. I'm going to drop out now so I can have a quick break, and I will see you guys in a little bit.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I'll just get one real quick point to what Brian just said. So, yes, we hear a lot from China, but I will say that China's also been famous for, let's just call it bending the truth. It wasn't more than like 4 years ago where we saw the Chinese put out a clip of a Top Gun video saying that they shot down a U.S. fighter jet. I mean, like we've seen these things before, and even then we don't know who's behind it. We've seen these rooms of all these people sitting there driving the vehicles for them. I mean, I take all that with a grain of salt. China has not been great at innovating in these type of spaces. They've really excelled at innovating on the manufacturing side, and you got to take your hats off to them because compared to if we are a D grade compared to them when it comes to that, but when it comes to forward innovation, I would say they're a D grade compared to us, right? So that's how I see it. I don't see it changing.
So lots of reasons. There's lots of examples where China they said something, they were going to do something, it didn't happen. But there's also a lot of examples where when you have the might of the government, and the most recent one that we all can see right in front of our eyes is electric vehicles and battery storage and energy. They cornered the market for minerals. They bought every single mineral mine you could think of in Africa, and they built these batteries, and they're the world leader in batteries. Then they said, we're going to become an electric vehicle company, and they propped up and created over 100 electric vehicle car companies out there. You and I follow them, and we're seeing them. They're real. They're pretty good quality, low cost. They're not making margin, but they're out there, and they've already beaten the American brands and the European brands in electric vehicles. And so they're not scot-free. I've done many shows where to say that they may not be able to go global. They don't have the software. But I'm just saying that when they put their might towards something, they can force things to happen. And one of them that they did was the bots. 2 years ago, they said, we are going to heavily invest and we want to be the leader in humanoid bots. And the government, US hasn't done that. And it's only Tesla. If it wasn't for Tesla, who'd be ahead in humanoid bots? Yeah. Now, you need brains, so that's a separate discussion there. But I'm just saying that, it's...
once again, this is a classic fool's errand that we see every time. And we're doing it with this $500 billion investment. When you have governments subsidize, and that's what these are, whether it's China or what Trump's doing here, is subsidize your innovation, you're not going to learn the things you need to learn.
Mm.
That's why you don't see any of these Chinese EV companies being able to be profitable, because they are banking on the fact that they have cheap labor and you have government subsidies. So they didn't have to learn and do the hard things that Tesla had to learn. That is going to be something that works against them for a long time, because you need to slowly learn those lessons and fix things along the process as you scale, not scale and then try to figure things out once you have this huge machine underway. And that it's Elon's talked about his like process for like automation, simplify, all the delete, etc. And this is where everybody tries to just grow and scale and thinking if they can just scale, they solve all their problems. But they're not taking the lessons learned along the way.
Okay.
They're just taking
One to
government
keep in mind,
subsidies and
in
cheap
China,
labor.
it's a bloodbath. The competition is so big there. They're all trying to outdo each other. Hey, my car has a fridge. My car, the seats can swivel. They're trying to compete for the market,
That's the
the
problem.
consumer market.
They're
So
not
there is
focusing on the
competition
right
there.
things. That's the wrong
Mm,
competition.
that's no.
That's MTV Pimp My Ride. That's not actually trying to solve the. That's like seeing um Boston Dynamics. Oh, look, this humanoid can do backflips. Cool. Is that actual utility? Does that actually make sense? The things that went into being able to do that, the energy exposure, does that make sense? That was all hydraulics. Does that make sense? No, it didn't. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's great for a headline or for like, hey, I got this feature, but it's not first principles. And I watch, we'll be on in 2 years and I'll be like, hey, you guys remember when I was saying this and you guys
No,
dismissed it?
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I know that Tesla is so far ahead, and all these things these are smoke and mirrors. A lot of these bot demos, smoke and mirrors. They're just trying to get marketing. They're trying to get out in front. Look at what they're doing. And then so much of the public watch these videos and they go, "Don't you realize?" And like, no, these guys are nowhere near what Tesla's able to do. Yeah, I'm on board with you. Everything you've said so far, it's actually true. Okay. Thank you very much, Nick. As always, let me. We'll as soon as I end this, you'll see Brian, and he'll answer all the questions that you guys have asked on the comment section. Bye, everybody.